All right, for more on this, we're joined by Northwest University's Business School and Economics and Management Professor Raymond Parsons. Good afternoon, Professor. Thank you very much for joining us on the Full View. Now, the AGOA Forum is sitting from tomorrow, and we as South Africa find ourselves in a very precarious position as some U.S. lawmakers still maintain we should be excluded. What are your views on where we find ourselves now as Team South Africa heading into that forum?
Well, good afternoon to you. I think we should just remind ourselves that the AGOA arrangement has been in operation for 24 years. It's been renewed twice. It's due to expire next year. And hence this particular focus, both in the United States and in South Africa, on how this agreement should be renewed for sub-Saharan Africa in general, and for South Africa in particular. And as has been mentioned, we, in November last year, had a very successful forum about AGOA here, where there was a cross-section of representatives both from Southern Africa, South Africa, and the United States. And the general agreement was that we should ask the United States, remember, it's their decision, not our decision. It's not a trade agreement, it's a trade facility from the United States, that this should be renewed by the US Congress. It's not a decision for the president himself. He will have to sign or not sign legislation. It will be the US Congress that will be asked to renew it for, say, another 10 years. Mm-hmm. So this is a very important meeting for South Africa to do the necessary lobby to ensure not only that, in general, that the AGOA agreement from the United States will be renewed, but that South Africa's interests in it will be protected.
Mm-hmm. Professor, do you see it being renewed, given our foreign policy? I mean, with all that's happening in the world currently, be it our position on the Russia-Ukraine war, be it our position in Israel, what is happening in the Middle East between Israel and Palestine, do you see any of that somehow influencing the decision, or they'll confine themselves to this essentially as being about trade?
Well, I think obviously these particular political factors have played a part in some of the reaction we've seen from the US Congress in regard to South Africa and AGOA. But that's why we're there now. We want to be able to create the perspectives that a government of national unity, which is a new government in South Africa, will bring to the AGOA debate as far as South Africa is concerned. We accept that if it was not to be renewed for South Africa, that would cause hardship for South Africa. I don't think it's a fatal wound. We can see it's about 2% of our total exports, but it's very important for some of the sectors that have gained from this duty-free access to the United States economy over a period of 24 years. Mm-hmm. One of the important points here, as we reimagine it, is also to say, when you look at the numbers, yes, we have gained from it. Yes, there are sectors in our economy that are very much dependent, such as, for example, automotive, agriculture, textiles, all being very much helped by it. But 2 points are very interesting for our future strategy under AGOA. And that is, firstly, that we have not exploited it to the extent we should have, and we need to do a lot more. I think that business needs to do a lot more to exploit the opportunities under AGOA. And secondly, our exports of non-AGOA commodities have done a lot better. So I think these are important issues that we need to feed into our strategy as we seek in our lobbying to access the AGOA agreement for another 10 years.
Mm-hmm. You touch on our other exports. They've been doing much better, but also some of the view that it wouldn't necessarily be in the interest of America to decide not to renew, purely because we remain America, or have become America's largest trader. That right now, with just the data that we have, in 2020, it was roughly at 20 billion. This is two-way trade. So would it really be in their best interest to also decide to snub South Africa in this way?
Well, that's how we have to look at the leverage. Of course, the United States is a huge economy. We're a small, open economy. But let's break it down to a sectoral level. What's important? That's why I mentioned the 24 years, because both the world situation, the US situation, their politics, And of course, South Africa's economy and its politics have changed to some extent, and that must inform the future strategies about AGOA, how it should be nuanced and improved in future. But what we've also noticed that over this time, several of those minerals, such as manganese, platinum, and so forth, which we produce and have strong supply sources of, are essential to the United States. So there is a reciprocal here that, although it may not fall under AGOA, is part of the leverage in which we must negotiate, making sure that in the mutual interests of both the United States and South Africa, there are mutual advantages in a renewal of AGOA.
Professor, some commentators speak of the 2000s as having been a period when South Africa and the United States enjoyed the best relations. That was, of course, during President Clinton's tenure. They say relations are now severely strained, but our government doesn't seem to share those views. Or some commentators are of the view that insofar as the ANC is concerned, not much has changed. Their position, at least on Palestine, even during Mandela's time, remained the same. Even the ANC had styled itself as an anti-imperialist movement or political party, anti-West to a certain extent, but somehow the two countries coexisted. So has there been really a significant change? Or the African National Congress, which has led government, has continued to be the African National Congress that almost has that posture of anti-imperialism, anti-West to a certain extent, and much closer to those who assisted during the apartheid era, be it the USSR or any other?
I think the way we must look at it is three ways. Firstly, our president met with the US president some months ago. It was a very cordial and a friendly exchange and a commitment to sort of mutual relationships, both at a diplomatic and an economic level that we want to promote. Secondly, we know that there's been a shift in our own politics, in the sense that we now have a government of national unity with different checks and balances in the broad policy environment, and that might also include nuancing our foreign policy in certain ways. And thirdly, this is embodied in the fact that our Minister Tau has taken a strong delegation over to the United States at a crucial point in order to be able to have a dialogue and a discussion, in order to see that we can retain the pillars of what are really a long-standing, excellent relationship between the United States and South Africa, and which we ought to endorse and strengthen under one of those major instruments, which in this case happens to be the AGOA facility, which was introduced by the United States, as I say, a couple of decades ago.
Professor, thank you very much for your insights this afternoon. That's Northwest University Business School Economics and Management Professor Raymond Parsons speaking to us.